Hello, Mike Kako, and good afternoon. Mahalo for joining today's AEN hearing. It's Wednesday, April 10th, 2024, and we're convened here in room 224 and also video conferencing, which includes the audio and video of remote participants. It's being streamed live on YouTube. In the unlikely event that our hearing gets cut short, we'll reconvene on Friday, April 12th at 1 p.m. during AEN's time slot. And let's see what we have on the agenda for this afternoon is one item, Governor's Message 598, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Molokai Irrigation System Water Users Advisory Board, gubernatorial nominee Oscar Ignacio. Okay, and first up is Department of Ag.
Thank you very much. Great to see you all. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, Committee Member. Dexter Kishida, Department of Agriculture. We stand in strong support of this candidate. As his resume shows, he knows the system like the back of his hand. Enough said, mic drop. So we stand on our testimony in strong support, Mr. Ignacio. Thank you.
Thank you, Dexter. DHHL is also in support. Anyone else wishing to testify? And members, any questions?
Just call me, Chair. Just call me.
Comment? Okay, well, let's see if
yes.
Darnell, is he online yet?
No, he's not online, Chair.
Okay,
Thank you, Chair.
go ahead.
So Oscar Ignacio, I have strong support for this individual. He's a homesteader on Molokai. He also ran the irrigation system. Very good guy, very well oriented. He's also actually a musician for Six Pack. And let me tell you, they're badass. But the guy, unbelievable. He's also a pig farmer. I can't say enough about the individual. He'll be a well addition to the system. Exactly what Deputy Director said. Knows the system in and out, the flaws, and what the improvements need to be had. So strong support, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I noticed 30 plus years as the MIS manager. I think he might be qualified. So, yes, okay, why don't we just go ahead and Chair's recommendation on GM 598 will be to advise and consent. Chair votes, any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. On 598 for advice and consent, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes and Awa are excused. Chair, you have 3 in favor. Motion is carried.
Okay, thank you very much. And then that concludes the 1 o'clock agenda. Hello, Mike Kako, and good afternoon. Mahalo for joining us. Today's AEN hearing. It's Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. We're convened here in room 224 and video conferencing. And let's see, in the unlikely event that the hearing is cut short, we'll reconvene on Friday, April 12th at 1 p.m. at AEN's time slot. And we have one item on the agenda, and that is HCR 189 HD1. Urging the state to prohibit the introduction of biocontrol agents that might threaten economically important forage grass species. And first up is DLNR.
Good afternoon, Chair, Co-Chair, committee members. I'm Rob Hoff with the Department of Land and Natural Resources, Division of Forestry and Wildlife. And the department respectfully opposes this resolution. And I just wanted to emphasize a few brief points about this resolution. First of all, there are extensive consultation requirements and review requirements that already exist for biocontrol petitions, including a permit that has to be issued HTOA, which I'm pretty certain HTOA is not going to issue a permit if the ranching industry is against a petition. However, that preempts us from looking at the individual scientific information on those projects, the biology of the species, the ecology, and the impact that they cause. Secondly, I want to mention that the wording's a little vague. It just says economically important invasive grasses. It doesn't list which species, and it doesn't say who gets to determine what an economically important species is. What might be economically important for an individual farmer might not be for the entire industry. Finally, and this isn't in our testimony, but I just wanted to mention that it does set precedent for other groups to come in and ask the legislature to submit legislation to do blanket bans on other types of plants. For instance, there are a lot of invasive species that beekeepers use as forager, and I wouldn't be surprised, if other groups have species that they don't want to see, and that really preempts this process of playing out, where scientific information is presented, and the decision makers get to determine, what are the risks, what are the benefits. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Department of Ag?
Good afternoon, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Richards, and Senator DeCoit. Thank you for allowing the department to provide, my name is Darcy Oishi, Acting Manager, Plant Pest Control Branch. And thank you for allowing us to present testimony in support of the resolution. As you've heard from our respected colleagues in DLNR, the department does have a lot of regulatory powers in terms of how we screen, evaluate, and ultimately approve for releases of biological control agents. That said, we support this bill this resolution, because we don't see this as limiting our ability to remain engaged and aware of ongoing projects for biological control in any arena. This is specifically targeting economically important grasses for preservation, which we would work to engage in and support. We want to facilitate our land managers from being able to execute their mission in managing the INA in a productive way. And ranching is fundamentally a good way of both managing our rangelands and an economically important asset to the state of Hawaii. So we take a long-term view, and if we do have good opportunities, what we will do is as Senator Richards knows, I will go and present to the ranchers, hey, this is what I want to do at the Hawaii Cattlemen's Convention, and they will, as appropriate, either urge me on or tie me up. So we support the industry, and we will continue to support the industry, and we will be very mindful of any kind of biocontrol actions that we take, because that it is long-term, it is irreversible, and we take that responsibility quite seriously. Thank you, and I am here for questions.
Thank you very much, Darcy. Next is Nicole Galassi from the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. Nicole, are you with us?
Yes. Thank you, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Richards, Senator DeCoit. Nicole Galassi on behalf of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. The cattlemen are in strong support of this measure. It's because we are concerned that any biocontrol introduced could have unintended consequences. We are glad to hear that there's safeguards there, but there could be issues with host specificity. Grasses are closely related. For example, fountain grass and kikuyu are genetically closely related, so they actually hybridize in the wild. With kikuyu grass supporting about 70% of the beef cattle industry in Hawaii, this would be one example of an economically important forage. But that's to say that if a biocontrol were released against for fountain grass, it could jump to kikuyu grass is what we're afraid of. Ranchers also contend with weeds and invasive species, but we're asking for a more holistic, comprehensive approach to be considered over biocontrol. There's really a difference between managed and unmanaged lands. Managed lands have boots on the ground. Unmanaged lands have infrastructure that deteriorates, invasive species that take over, grasses that aren't grazed. So we do hope that the state can look to the ranchers as an asset when it comes to reducing these fires, because they are those boots on the ground. But they need this forage. The cattle can be used as a tool to keep those fuel loads down. Ranchers invest millions into water infrastructure. This is because they're managing the land and they're producing the beef as a viable business. A biocontrol that targets important forage grasses would devastate the industry. And all those things I just talked about, plus other ecosystem services, they would no longer be available if we no longer have a viable cattle industry in Hawaii. Mahalo.
Thank you, Nicole. Next is Brian Miyamoto from Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bill is now on its written testimony and support.
Thank you, Brian. Larry Jeffs from Larry Jeffs Farms is in support. Sarah Moore from Kalia Ranch is in support. Penny Levin has comments. And the following are also in support: Woody Child, Jimmy Greenwell, Jacqueline Ambrose, Randy Cabral, Carolyn Awiloa. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Please.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of ROAR, Rescue of Animal Rights. We trap and neuter feral cats. We have a little chicken sanctuary where we produce little eggs. We love animals. And so I will be testifying to support the state in prohibiting biocontrol agents that might diminish economically important plant species. So I think this discussion should be focused on getting cows nutritious, healthy foods, right? That's the focus of this discussion, is that if we don't apply biocontrol agents, then the plant species can grow naturally, and then the cows can get their nutrition, and then that will sustain the economic advantages of the beef industry, right? So let's look at other jurisdictions. Kansas, they feed their cows sunflower feeds. And in Nebraska and California, the cows consume sugar beet pulp. And in Hawaii, the cows get pineapple from a pineapple processing plant. So these are money-saving solutions, right, within the agriculture industry for farmers. And in Pennsylvania, the cows, it says in this research that I read from the Washington Post, the cows like the Hershey's plant chocolate. So the cows, they eat the chocolate in Pennsylvania, apparently. And the discarded foods are nutritionally healthy.
Your time's up. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Members, any questions?
Yep, I got it.
Senator Richards?
Appreciate your comments. This is a resolution that makes a statement. If it was a bill that ordered something, I might be inclined to agree with you. Expand a little bit on the your concerns, because in your testimony, did you prepare the testimony?
I did.
Okay, so in your testimony, you talked about a potentially having a biological control that would enhance grazing. Explain that, please.
Sure. Well, I can
State your name again, please.
Thank you. Rob Hoff, Department of Land and Natural Resources. So an example that I can cite is something that I have learned from working with my colleagues with Hawaii Department of Agriculture. And this is regarding a biocontrol that is being researched for development by USDA in Texas for guinea grass. And what they're looking at is a gall wasp that attacks guinea grass. And instead of killing it, it stunts the growth. And with guinea grass, as you know, it can reach heights up to 10 feet. And when that stuff burns, you have flame heights up to 25 feet. What this could potentially do, and potential because it's still under research, it could stunt the growth, thereby reducing the amount of above ground biomass that causes it to be a high fuel risk, while potentially enhancing the forage value of it, because once once guinea grass grows to that height, the plant material becomes very fibrous and it is no longer. So it's almost because of where the insect attacks the grass, it will be sprouting up the green sprouts, new sprouts, in response to the insect. Now, this is hypothetical. They're still doing research, but that is plausible. I think part of the problem is a lot of people think that, oh, if you're introducing a biocontrol, you're getting rid of that plant. Well, that never happens. You might make it less common, or you might make it just grow differently. And I think that we should be open to such options out there. And my fear is that such a resolution might discourage research into looking at these things.
Okay, so, and I appreciate that perspective. I completely agree with you as far as using science-based decision-making, not emotional based. Definition of invasive grass. A grass that is purposely brought in is not invasive because it was purposely brought in. That's the definition I use. And I am concerned in the wake of the fire on Maui, that we have an interpretation that for some reason it's believed that indigenous grasses are not flammable. Well, that's just simply not the case. Dry grass is flammable. And so I understand where the concern is, because taking out some of these forages not going to help our environment at all. In fact, they were brought in for reasons. So your definition of invasive grass.
So my definition of invasive species in general is things that have an economic or ecological impact. And with and that doesn't preempt there being an economic value to them. Many invasive species can still have economic value, but the way that these invasives behave outside their habitat, and this has been documented by ecologists who have researched the ecology of these plants. In many instances, it's because they don't have their natural enemies that make them behave like a natural plant. So specifically, some of these grasses, the way they behave in Hawaii, that is different from our native grasses, that you're correct, they will burn. They form continuous fuels. So they lead to really, really quick spread of fires. Native grasses, they tend to be more sparser bunch grasses, and they don't have that continuous fuel mat that an invasive grass does. So in my mind, those are kind of things that distinguish invasive grass from a native grass and make them invasive. But again, just because it's invasive doesn't mean it doesn't have economic benefits. And I think that we have to be very careful when we manage invasive species that do have economic impacts, because we don't want to take those away. Nobody in this room wants to damage our cattle industry.
And it's also an environmental side, because some of these things were brought in to stabilize soils. And so on the final question, Chair, is there any plans right now from DLNR to target anything?
DLNR would like to devote some funding to research, looking into some of these. Now that is these projects have a long road ahead of them. Mm-hmm. It would just be very initial research. For instance, with guinea grass, there are different biotypes. We don't even know if we have the same biotype that they're researching in Texas, but we would like to collaborate with some of these other entities that are doing the research. And it would involve a lot of consultation through the entire process to make sure that we're not pursuing something that could harm Hawaii's economy.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else?
Darcy. Yeah, state your name again.
Darcy Oishi, Hawaii Department of Agriculture.
Okay, Darcy, you and I have worked on biological controls together. From your perspective, are you aware of any work being done now to look at targeting any of our forages within the state?
For forages within the state, there is guinea grass is, as Rob mentioned, guinea grass is being examined. There are 2 insects that are being looked at. The department is engaged in that research to be aware and to identify potential opportunities and to guide research as appropriate to suss up to truth whether this would be a useful strategy for facilitating management in unmanaged lands without impacting our managed lands. That's one. We are looking at opportunities for fountain grass, not an economically important grass itself, but because of the hybrid, which we are aware of, we're going to refine some of our analysis to make sure that it does not attack the hybrid. I personally have interest in the hybrid because of its potential uses, because as a hybrid grass, well, any hybrid plant has been highly resistant to biological control. So that has been proven time and again on our research, and it is one of the reasons why we have significant obstacles for something like Himalayan ginger, because that is a hybrid, and hybrid vigor is a real thing. So we are looking at fountain grass, but all of these projects are just in their infancy. We're 20 years away from having any body of work that will be meaningful enough for me to even begin thinking about a release. And hopefully by that point in time, I won't have to be coming here and to provide testimony in my official capacity. I will be cheering it on in an unofficial role because I will be retired because, yeah. But so that's another opportunity that we are looking at. But at this point, the department and our partners in the Forest Service are basically keeping our eyes and ears open for opportunities. And we want to remain engaged. We want to keep our options open, but we are nowhere, absolutely nowhere in terms of a release. And again, as you know from your personal experience, I consult early and often with the industry. So I intend to maintain that, and I intend to regularly update on any work on guinea grass that I'm aware of and the opportunities that are presented, both that can be of benefit to Hawaii if there is a potential benefit.
Okay, all right, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and do some decision-making. Chair's recommendation on HCR 189 HD1 is to pass as is. Is there any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
Quick discussion, Chair. Yeah. Just follow up on comment I made, that if this were a bill that mandated something, I do agree with DLNR. We don't want people in this building making policy decisions for something that should be done scientifically. That being said, this is a statement of direction, and so I will be supporting it because the idea is let's be mindful of economics while we are making these decisions.
Okay.
So thank you, Chair. Pass unamended on HCR 189, House Version 1. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit? Aye. Senator Rhodes and Awa are excused. Chair, you have 3 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you very much, and that concludes the 115 AEN.